Hello folks and welcome to the Vertigo Tea Party, and let's try Banished. It's by Shining Rock Software. It is a city building simulation. It's available for $19.99 on the developer site, on Steam, and on GOG.com. Now if you purchase the game from the dev site, you do get a DRM free version of the game and you get a Steam key. So if at all possible, you might want to consider buying it from the dev site just so that they get all the money if you want to go that route. I will have links to all of that and any other relevant links in the description below the video. It does support Steam achievements and has in-game achievements. So again, if you don't use the Steam version, if you just want the DRM free version, you do still have your achievements. And it is only available for Windows right now. I don't know if there are any plans to bring this to Linux or Mac or anything of that nature. Speaking on the achievements real quick, I wanted to note most games, a lot of achievements are kind of filler, right? You've built a house, you've built 2 houses, whatnot. Looking through these achievements, these are pretty significant. Not saying that they're all very difficult to get, but there's definitely a little more weight behind each of these achievements. Let's put it this way, I've put 10 hours into this game so far, I have not got a single achievement. So anyway, let's go ahead and hop right in. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a new town, show you the basics, and then switch to a town that I have been playing with for a while. And you can name your town whatever you want. We'll call ours Duckburg. Does Duckburg have an E? We're going to say it doesn't. Now this is interesting. This is your map seed. So anybody else who plays this seed number will get the same type of map. That's pretty neat because, and of course you can just randomly generate, or you can just put a number in here and you'll get a map based on that seed number. That's really cool because if you see a map that you enjoy or you want to try to tackle yourself, or you find a cool map and you're like, hey man, check this map seed out, you can give them the number and try it. It's pretty cool. Let's give our seed number 8675309. Of course, you don't have to put one in. You can do random generation. You can choose the terrain type, which is more valleys, which is going to be easier, or more mountains, which I guess the trade-off is you can get more like mines or ores, or not ores, iron and coal, but there's less room to actually build. Climate, mild, fair, harsh. Mild would be the easiest, I would assume. Fair is what we're going to stick with, and harsh, of course, would be more difficult. Disasters on and off. Disasters are things like fires breaking out, tornadoes. We'll go ahead and leave them on. Hopefully we won't get hit by one though. Starting conditions, hard, medium, and easy. These determine how many people you start with and how many resources that you start with. We're going to stick on medium for now, and we're going to hit OK and start a new map. Now the story here is that your people, for whatever reason, have been banished from whatever town or city that they were living in to start with, and you're creating your own town, your own commune, if you will. So let's start here. Now you'll notice first they have all these home icons. Let's pause the game first off so I can kind of explain what we're doing as we're doing it. So they have all these home icons. That means they are homeless. These indicators are really, really well done, I think, and draw your attention to a problem very, very quickly. And I very much like that. So starting off here, we've got a decent amount of resources. They put all these in the stockpile. They banished this, but they let us take a bunch of firewood and iron and what have you. And we have a storage barn. So we have a river. That's good to know. Rivers are important because you can fish from them, and later on you will do trade. So getting started. First thing, obviously, we want to get these people houses. So let's go ahead and get some building done. We're going to just do wood houses. Wood houses are the most basic house, and I'm not going to worry too much about my placement right now, since this is going to be more of showing you how to get the game started. So let's just build some houses right here. So they're facing out towards the river. Nice scenic view, because that's what they care about. We're going to start the timer up. You can change your time speed here by 1, 2 times, 5 times, or 10. Once you get used to the game, you're probably going to be running at least ×5 speed, because things tend to get done very slowly and you do end up waiting a lot on things, which hasn't been a huge problem so far, but just FYI, but they do have those speeds there. Now, while these guys are getting their stuff together, let's look at the windows. This game does a good job of giving you the tools that you need to look at the information you need to make decisions, if that makes sense. And another thing I like is how you can set the UI up however you want. So this is my general info bar for the town. Now I can move this up, and I can just leave it open if I want. I can just close this back, and I can leave this here. It tells me the town name, which is Duckburg. It tells me the year, and it shows me how many people live here. We got 10 adults, 0 students, and 3 children. Now, the adults are the ones who work. Basically, anyone over the age of 10, if you don't have a school, becomes an adult, and they start working. Children don't work. I don't know what kind of lazy kids these society people have, but they need to get them working. But for this game, they do not work. So that is important to keep in mind. Now, you'll notice, my house is not getting built. Here's why. I was kind of hoping I would have more time to do this, but let's bring up the event log. We're going to close that for now so we don't get too much stuff going on here. Now, professions. This game, the people who do things, build, cut down trees, mine, etc., you have to assign how many people you want doing that. So in this case, we need builders to build these houses, obviously. So I'm going to say, you know what? I want 2 builders. I want to go ahead and just say 2 builders so that we get these houses built quickly. So now 2 people will just randomly be assigned to building. One thing that's different about this game that is different than this game about other games like it is that people don't really get experience or need qualities in order to become any profession. So someone who right now is just a laborer is just your basic. They do whatever needs to be done that isn't specific. So they carry goods from one place to another. They will cut down trees and gather rocks, things like that. Just anything, again, that doesn't pertain to a very specific profession is the word I'm looking for. So we're going to need at least 1 more house, most likely. So let's build 1 more house. One thing you're going to be very careful of starting off is not going too crazy with building houses. If you want, the more houses you build, the more your population will grow. The reason that is because if you click on this, you can see 2 people have moved in of the opposite sex. Well, as often happens when 2 people of the opposite sex live together, they're going to pump out children. Those children will live with their parents indefinitely unless a house comes available. So if you have more houses, you have more children moving out after they hit the age of 10, which is when they're an adult. And of course, that means they will be paired up with someone of the opposite sex, probably, which means more children. And if you don't do that, however, they will continue living with their parents pretty much until their parents die, and they cannot have kids of their own while they live at home. So be careful about going crazy building a lot of houses, because that can cause problems. I've heard a lot of people like, oh, I'm doing really good on food, I'm going to build 5 houses, and then 5 years later, the village starves to death because people, as they tend to do when they get shacked up with each other, tend to have a lot of sex and pump out a lot of kids. So let's go ahead, and these workers are all idle. They're just kind of walking around. What we're going to do here is we're going to need more wood and stone. We brought some with us, but we're going to need more, and we're going to need to clear out a lot of the stuff anyway. So what I've done is I've chose this tool, and I've chosen, okay, I want to remove resources. Now I can say just remove trees and highlight an area, and they'll just get trees, or I can say just get stone and select it. That's handy for when you, like, let's say you have a woodcutter in an area and you want to get rid of the stones. You can just say remove all these stones, but don't get rid of the trees, and then the woodcutter will do their thing. So let's go ahead and just select this area. You guys get to work on clearing all of that out, and they will cut down these trees, gather these stones, and bring them back to the stockpile. And you can see here, things that are set to be destroyed have kind of a cross of a pickaxe and an axe to indicate that they're going to be removed. So we've got houses here. We still need more, though. We need more houses. So let's go ahead and, well, build more houses. Because you don't want them to be homeless, if at all possible, but you just don't want to be, once you get to the point where people aren't homeless anymore, you don't want to go crazy with continuing to build houses. So I'm going to build a little, I'm going to have a little space here and build 2 more houses. Now you'll notice it's letting me put those houses down. One thing I like about this game is that I can put a house or whatever down, and if trees and rocks need to be removed, it does that automatically. I don't have to do it manually and then remember to go back and do it myself later on. So they're going to clear out this stuff pretty quickly. You can always tell there's people living in a house because there's smoke coming out of the stacks. If the house is empty, there will be no smoke coming out. And let's go ahead. The next thing we're going to need to do is get some food coming in. The easiest way to do that, I think, is going to be a fish dock. Again, you go down here, you choose your food production, choose fishing dock, and you can see you've got these green arrows. That's basically where you want to connect it to the road. That's how I think about that. You can also change the direction by hitting R. It's pretty easy. And you can also see the yellow circle. That's the area that are fishing from. The big thing with the fishing dock area, you just don't want them to overlap. So if you build another fishing dock, you don't want to build it within the area of influence of this fishing dock, or else they will not get as many fish. It will not be efficient. Now, there's the storehouse, and we're going to go over that in just a second. So I want this to be right there. Nope, can't quite build there. You can see the fishing dock cannot be placed at this location. Is that going to be? Nope, I think that's still a little red. There we go. Oh, nope. Really? Oh, come on. It's going to be a real pain here, isn't it? Of course. It's usually not this hard to push one. There we go. Nope. I don't quite understand what's blocking us here. I don't know why. There's really no other way to put this. I've never had this much trouble getting a fishing dock up. Maybe we hit. Okay, that's right. Okay, I need to put it up more. Gotcha. So here you can see what they need to do. They need to remove, if they need to remove anything, it'll be listed here. It needs 30 logs, 16 stone, and then once it has those, they'll actually start building. Actually, I think you can start building even if you have less. So right now, the laborers are going to grab the materials and bring them to the location. Now, what happens if you don't have laborers? What happens if you have everybody assigned to various professions, which will happen and almost certainly happen, and probably earlier on in the game. What happens at that point is your builders will then have to go get the materials themselves and bring it back. So it can be inefficient to do that. So you generally want to have at least 1 or 2 laborers for a few reasons. The other big reason that you want to have laborers available is, let's say I assign somebody to work fishing, and then they die. Well, if they die and you have laborers, a laborer will automatically jump into that position of fishing. That way you don't have a gap where you need to go free up someone to go work that fishing dock. Okay, that one's almost done. We're at the 71% complete. And what speed are we playing on? We're playing on 2 times speed. Again, most of the time you'll probably end up want to play on 5 to 10, but since we're starting off, and since I'm kind of showing you how all of this works, I want to take it a little slow right now. So here's the storage barn. You have 2 main areas of storage. Well, 3, but we'll just cover 2 for now. You have the stockpile. The stockpile is for your large resources. Firewood, iron, log, and stone. The storage barn is for smaller goods. Coats, tools, various food, just things like that. Basically, most of this is actually crafted goods, right? Most of that's going to be crafted good or farm goods, what have you. So now you'll see here, we have a question mark. And we hover over it and it says, no citizens are available to work at this location. That's because we haven't allotted any. Now, to explain this a bit, this is saying we have 0 of 4 fishermen working this fish dock. So you can have up to 4 people fishing, but no more than that at this dock. So we're going to go ahead, and we got 8 laborers. Let's go ahead and make 4 of them fishermen for right now, because we really want to get our food up quickly. One of the #1 things that will kill your civilization early on is food. Another that I found out the hard way is running out of tools. Your people need tools and clothes to do their jobs and to survive the elements. So what we're going to do is go ahead and start. Man, we don't have anywhere good for a mine, do we? Or do we? Let's take a look. Let's go to resource production. And let's find a quarry is for rocks. A mine is for coal and iron. And it can only do one of those at a time. So we are going to put you... it looks like I could probably go right here. Okay. Now, again, I'm not doing this necessarily in the most efficient placement, but again, I just kind of want to get started. And again, we will switch to a city that I've got going pretty well after this. So as you can see, again, it shows we need to remove 20 trees and or stones, and then they'll start bringing the logs and stone and all of that over. We got 4 laborers, so they should clear that out pretty quickly. I don't know if builders will help in that phase or not, but you can see we also have everyone is nice and cozy in their homes. Nobody's homeless. That's good. And while these guys are busy, let's build roads. There are roads. We're just going to build basic roads for right now since our resources are somewhat limited. And let's build a road from here to the storehouse, because that's a trip they're going to make a lot. Roads simply make people who walk on roads, they go faster. A simple road, they'll walk a little bit faster. On stone roads, they'll walk even faster. So obviously, when you can, you'll want to get roads, at least simple roads, between areas where people are going to be walking a lot, because that little bit of speed over time can make a big difference. It can be the difference between surviving a winter and having starvation. Maybe not, maybe being a little over melodramatic there, but you get what I'm talking about. So let's go ahead and we'll crank this up to 5. You can see this goes a little faster. I really like the weather effects of this game, especially once we get to winter. I really like the winter effects. Now, obviously, the seasons play a part in the gameplay as well, particularly winter. In winter, if your people don't have warm clothes, they'll often be inside a lot more. They'll also go through firewood to keep themselves warm, obviously. So we are in late summer now of year 1 of our new colony. And you can also see that we've started producing a few more children. And again, you can always click on a house. Oh, let's see, there's a kid named Lion. That's an interesting name. Now we have a resource that's low. The resource of stone is low. So, again, we have a lot of laborers just milling about. So let's go ahead. You know what? We're going to clear... Let's just clear... I'm trying to find a place with a lot of stone. Let's go over here. Clear all this out. Now, I've seen some people have their laborers running way off and clearing. To me, that's really inefficient. One thing you got to look out for is if a laborer starts walking really far to go somewhere and they get hungry, they're going to stop, come all the way back, get food, and then go all the way back. So the longer they have to walk, the more you got to worry about things like that. Or if they get cold, they'll go back home to get warmed up and then leave to go again. So you got to be careful about things like that. Now, while we're getting kind of all of this set up, let's look at the UI some more. This is your basic, these are the 2 main windows I like to keep open all the time. And again, you can move these wherever you want. You can not keep them open if you want, but I find that I reference them so much that I want to keep them open all the time. So again, here's the name of my town. You can see the temperature. You can see the type of weather that's going on. And here you can see some of your main items that you're going to need to keep track of. You have logs, firewood, which again they use to keep warm, and they use more of in winter for obvious reasons. The amount of stored food, which is obviously super important. We've only got 30 right now, so it's getting a little low. It's just dumped to 78, so that's all right. The amount of stored stone, which is 0. Coal, which is not important just yet. Medicine, which is not too bad yet. Stored iron, stored tools, stored clothes, and stored alcohol. Now, tools, you do not want to run out of tools. As I said, I learned the hard way. My very first town, I was building other things. I ran out of tools before I had a blacksmith to make more tools, and they can still do the jobs. They can still mine ore. How you get ore without tools is, I don't know if they're just punching the ore veins. These are very tough, rugged people, folks. But it's much, much slower. And I had a town of about 20, 30 people drop to about 5 people. And I managed to recover, but it was not good times, folks. It was not good times. So looking at this mine, we have 68 stones, or we need 68, and we're lacking 32. So that is not good. So here's what I want to do. Since we need stone more than anything, go ahead and you guys grab all these stones. That's more important than getting the wood right now. Now, winter is coming, as I've so oft heard. Another thing I want to do, since we have some builders who aren't really doing anything right now, I want to go ahead and let's get some firewood chopped, because we have a lot of logs, we don't have much firewood. And you can see winter's here, so I have waited a little too long, but again, this is more for demonstration purposes. We have a woodcutter. Now, don't confuse the woodcutter with the forester like I did. Woodcutter only takes logs that the woodcutter has already cut and cuts them into firewood. To me, that seems a little bit silly, because why can't people just chop their own damn firewood? But whatever, it is what it is. So let's see, we get another message, reserve of stone is low. Yes, I'm well aware of that. Actually, we just got a bunch. No, that's iron. So you guys need to hurry up and get more stone. And you can see the laborers moving about. Now, notice before I said I might as well build something because the builders aren't doing anything. One thing about this game is that, especially at lower population levels, there's going to be some micromanagement that's going to need to go on if you want your town to be efficient. To some people, this might be a turnoff. To others, you might not care. I generally don't like a ton of micromanagement, but I'm okay with this game's level of micromanagement for the most part. Now, what am I talking about here as far as micromanagement? Let's say that I decided not to build this woodcutter, right? Let's just say that we had one and we're just entirely waiting for this one mine. And I've got 2 builders. Or let's just say I'm not building anything at all. Let's say both of these buildings are already done. And I've got 2 builders who are just idling. They're nothing. They might work as laborers while they're idling, but let's just say they don't. At that point, I would want to say, okay, let's ditch the builders. Let's get rid of them, or not get rid of them, just take them so they're not working as builders anymore, right? So I can just drop them as builders, and you can see they went back to the labor tab. I went from 4 laborers to 2, but now I have nobody set as building. I'm going to set at least one person to building, though. But this actually happens, at least when I played, quite a bit, because I'm trying to maximize my efficiency. So, for example, this came up a lot. I had a hunter, or I had a, what's it called? I had a forester lodge. The forester lodge, again, is the one who gets the logs and plants the trees. And then the woodcutter who, again, chops wood into firewood. So a lot of times, I would have way more firewood than I need, because you don't need a lot of firewood during the summer and spring for obvious reasons. So a lot of times, I'd have tons of firewood, and he would just, I'm like, oh, I don't need even more firewood. It's like, this pointless. You're just using up what little storage space that I have. So what I would do is I would basically fire all the woodcutter. Well, there's only one woodcutter. I would just make it so that the woodcutter had 0 people working it, and then I would have him do something else. He'd either be a laborer, or he'd be a tailor, or he'd be a blacksmith, or he would do whatever. And you end up doing that quite a bit. Again, with the blacksmith. The only thing the blacksmith makes is tools. Sometimes you have way more tools than you need. So you'll basically shut down the blacksmith, and that person will go do whatever else. This person is cold. I don't know why. It's early spring. Relax. Just chill out. I guess you're already chilling out. Just chill out. Relax. We'll get your fire soon enough. We're still low on stone. These guys are not... Did they already get all the stone out of there? That was quick. Go ahead and grab all this stone. Get it. That was my mistake. I thought they were still trying to get the stone out of there, but looks like they tore it up. I keep forgetting I'm at ×5. I'm not used to having this many laborers. I normally keep like 1 to 2 laborers but usually every other thing is you know, working. Looking at our food stores, we're doing pretty good here. Going back to the UI here. The hearts is the average health of the citizen. You encourage health by having a diversity of food types. Right now, I don't have a lot of diversity since we're just getting fish, but the more you get different types of foods from farming, fishing, hunting, gathering, things like that, your health will stay higher. Also, you can help this by other means, by having a hospital and having an herb gatherer. This is the average happiness of the citizens. Honestly, this hasn't really played too much of a part so far. Most of the time, people have been pretty happy. Again, I was playing on medium, so maybe it's much more forgiving. But my average happiness, I don't think it ever dropped below 4 stars. So it seems really easy to keep folks happy. I guess they're lucky just to be alive at this point. So yeah. Now, this other panel that I like to keep up all the time is professions. And we talked about this before. But this, I can very quickly look at, okay, how many miners do I have? How many stonecutters do I have? How many hunters, etc.? And I can change that number from right here. I can also click here, and I can see, or cycle through the various citizens who are doing this. This was useful to me early on, so that I could watch and kind of see how the AI works. Because there is a tutorial in this game, but if you've played other games like this, you're aware that there's little nuances that the tutorial and even the best documentation isn't going to cover. So I use that a lot when I was trying to learn, okay, exactly how does this person act under such and such circumstances. So, but other than that, I didn't have a lot of use for it. You can also see their inventory. So again, you can see like what they're carrying and what have you. You can also click the follow, switch to follow mode. Now we got a message here. Storage for logs, stone, and iron is near capacity. We click here. Oh, it's at 96%. And we've got a ton of stone now. Wow. We went from no stone to tons of stone very quickly. These guys are still cold. It's early summer. Just huddle up with your kids and your wife and all that, and that'll be fine, no problem. Once we get this woodcutter finally done. We've only got 1 builder. You know what? Let's switch back. Let's switch to 3 builders. Why not? Actually, let's go 4 builders. Let's go crazy. Let's get nuts. Things will build a bit faster. And this is exactly what I'm talking about, where if you want to be efficient, and sometimes if you want to survive, you will have to do some micromanagement of, oh, we need more builders. Oh, we need more laborers. Oh, we need more not barbers, but tailors. Whatever the situation requires. Once you get a big population and have most of your needs met, like you're meeting your food needs, you know, you've got all of your industries working, like the mines and the wood cutting and all that, it becomes a much less integral to how you play, or how I play at least. I don't have to juggle it as much. And I don't want to make it sound like you're just constantly having to do that, because that's not really the case, but you do it quite a lot. Sorry, now we have both of our buildings built. We don't need any builders right now. Let's just drop them. And let's go ahead and make 1 woodcutter. Let's only need 1. And the mine. The mine can hold to 15 people. And let's see, let's go ahead. We're going to need iron soon here. So let's go ahead and we're going to 2 people. Or no, I'm sorry, that's 3 people in the mines. Now, this could be a little confusing. If I had another mine, if I have another mine, this is where this can be confusing. This number right here is the total number of employers in that profession. This is how many citizens work and can work in this mine specifically. So let's say that, and you see here, I can choose, I want to either get iron or coal. Coal, I can't get both at the same time. So let's say I put another mine here that just got coal. But let's say that I've got 4 employees, or 4 miners. I got 4 miners. But because I want iron more, I want 3 people working the iron mine, but only 1 in the coal mine. What you would need to do, because if I had another mine here, it would say 3 for both, right? Because there's 3 miners in the entire profession. What I'd want to do here is, you know, keep this at 3. And then I would click on the other mine. Let's just pretend this is coal, just for evaluation purpose, or just for showing you how this works. I would drop this to 1. And then now only 1 person will work in here. Now these 2 people are very confused, because I'm saying I want 3 miners, but I'm saying I only want 1 person working in this mine. So they're like, huh? I have nowhere to work. which is good that it shows that, by the way, because especially when you get into the situation where you've got a lot of mines, or especially especially when you have a lot of farmers, this can be get a little unwieldy, because often you have like 2 people working a farm or more. So it's good that it shows that. And also, I do like how it seems like people who aren't doing anything often will idle, but as laborers. I love that. I love that idea. I'm switching this back to 3. So those people, yep, see the question marks went away, and now they're going back to their jobs at the mines, which they love very much. I love that about this game, is that many times when I was hoping that would happen, actually. Many times when someone is idle, they will work as a laborer. So if goods need to be carried somewhere, or trees need to be cut, or what have you, they'll work as a laborer. That is super useful, because you want laborers around so that the fishers, like these fishers, I don't want them carrying goods back and forth. I want them catching fish. I want other people carrying this crap to the storage barn. So if you plan out well, places like the woodcutter is frequently going to make more fuel than you need. So I know that this person is probably going to help the fishermen out a whole lot. Does that make sense? Now, you look at this icon. Now, what does this icon mean? It says the production limit for this resource has been reached. I have a fuel limit of 200. Again, the woodcutter turns logs into firewood or fuel for houses. And I'm saying I don't want any more than 200 fuel at a time. And if you look down here, I have 220. So the woodcutter's saying, look, I've got more firewood than you say that I should have, so I'm not producing any more. You ask, why in the world would you do that? Why not just keep making more and more? The problem with that is twofold. One, you run out of space. You only got so much space. You can see my stockpile is already at 100%. And as you build your city and you get more and more resources, if you don't want half your town to be stockpiles, then you want to limit how much stuff that you make. The other reason is what I talked about before, is if I've got a town of 12 people, well, 20 people if you include the kids. If I got a town of 20 people, I don't need 5,000 firewood, right? I have no need for that other than trading, which I'll talk about that in just shortly. So that person's time is not being used efficiently. I'd rather them do something else. So by setting this fuel limit, one, I minimize how much impact I have on stockpiles with unneeded excess, and 2, that person can still be more useful cutting trees down, or clearing trees, or carrying goods from one place to another, etc., etc. Hopefully, again, that makes sense, hopefully. Now, a few things. I love this genre of games. I love games like Tropico, Pharaoh, SimCity, Theme Hospital. I love these types of games. Caesar 3, etc., etc., etc. One thing I've noticed is that people don't care what they live next to. In a lot of other games, if you put people's houses right next to a mine or a fishery where it smells like fish all the time, they'll be less happy. That doesn't seem to have any effect. In fact, you want people to live next to mines or fisheries and what have you, because they'll often work there. One thing this game does exceptionally well is, let's go to the tools and let's click on the paths. First off, this tool is great, period. But if I click on the mine, it's going to show me where all the employees here live. You can see they live in that house. And if I click on, does nobody live in that house? Oh, I guess they're just laborers. Laborers obviously don't have a path because they just do whatever. But I can click on these houses and I can see where the people work. Now, obviously, they're going to live close here no matter what, because everything's piled up together. But as you expand the city, the AI is pretty damn good about, I don't know if they switch jobs or if they switch houses, but usually over time, I will see, like if I built, let's say I built a house over here, or I built a bridge, and let's say I put another mine over here. And originally, some people would have to work across, but if I put a house over here, I would see over time that somebody would just switch, right? Like the house, whoever lived in this house would be working in that mine, and whoever lived in this house would be doing something else. Maybe they're just a laborer. I love that about this game. It's not perfect, but more often than not, when I check, it's working. It's working as it should. And if it's not right when I look at it, if I look at it again later, it's like, oh, okay, look, it looks like the people switch jobs or whatever it is that they do. So that's really, really cool. Now, there are multiple tools you have here to look at, and I'll switch over to my city just so you can see what a larger town looks like, because I feel like I've rambled on long enough. There's other things, like you can bring a map up here. So you can set priority or show limits on production. This is probably not going to be handy early on, but later on, when you're wanting to change the maximum amount of anything you're wanting to make, you'll probably want to keep that window open. And again, this window is to tell you, this is the max I want. Like, once we have 200 logs in reserve, do not make any more logs ever again. Well, until we're under. So as soon as we hit 199 logs, the forester will go out and cut more logs. You can also save camera locations so that, like, let's say, again, your town is expanding. Let's say I've got my main part of my town here, but I also have an important section of town over here as well. I can say, all right, set this to 1, to hotkey Z. I don't know if it clicks. I haven't actually messed with this much. Okay, yeah, when I press Z, that goes there. And I want this to be, I guess that was, yeah. So Z and X. So you can very quickly switch around different areas of town. I like the little things like that that's missing in a lot of games like this. There's also the help. The help is pretty darn helpful, as I would hope help would be. It gives, a general overview, and it tells you specifics about, various professions and resource limits and all that. Almost everything I've wanted to know, I've been able to get from the in-game help. And there are tutorials, again, which help you to get started. But any kind of game like this, there's so many nuances that you will need to learn yourself. An amazing thing about this game is it was made by one person. I think he went to someone else for the music. But for the most part, one person did this whole game, which is insane to me. I haven't found a whole lot of bugs. There is an issue, or at least there was when I first started playing, where you couldn't play in DirectX 11 mode. And I had to change it to DirectX 9, something like that. And there are some AI issues where, and I haven't experienced them myself, but people said, like, if they try to build a bridge, like, let's say I try to build a bridge here, people would often try to go around the long way and start on this side instead of this side. But for the most part, the people seem to be pretty smart, especially, again, in regard to moving so that they're close to work. And the UI works out very well, and I'm just very much enjoying it. And just to kind of show you some of the other buildings. You know what? Actually, let's switch now. Let's go, we'll go ahead and save this town. Another slot. You can have multiple slots here if you want to save too. Go ahead and save that. And now we're going to load up my other town. And before I do, just very quickly to go over the game options, you have your basic stuff, edge scrolling, click mouse to window, weather effects, you can turn that on and off. You can change Celsius, you can change the auto timer, things like that. Interface scaling, if you want to make the interface smaller, you can do that. And that might be especially handy if you're like me and you like to have at least 2 to 3 windows open at a time. You have your basic video settings here, you can choose resolution, full screen. I think this is windowed full screen because it switches very quickly. And you can also see your graphical settings. I have everything maxed, and I sit at 60 frames per second constantly. So, excuse me. You can also change your UI volume, music effect, and ambient volume. By the way, again, minor thing, but I love when people developers make this split the music and audio volumes up. I hate when there's like a volume slider, or the next worst, like just music and an everything else slider. I really like when they set this up like that. I appreciate that extra effort. Speaking of extra effort, check this out. You can actually remap a lot of these keys that you want to, to whatever you want them to be. That's awesome. I really like that. I don't really mess with this a lot, but I think if I really got deep into it, I could see myself going in and possibly changing these to something that I liked a little bit better. So that's really cool that he put that in. I think that's really cool. Anyway, let's go ahead and hop out and let's load up my old game. And yes, it is called Shitsville because I figured this is my very first town. I'm going to be experimenting. I don't know what's going on, and it's probably going to be terrible. It turned out not to be too awful. Now, I think I'm running at 10 times speed here. Yeah. So this is 10 times speed. And as you can see, my town is a little bit larger here. So let's go over some of the more advanced buildings that you get later on. So here I've got 2 storage barns, both of them near 200% because I'm producing so much. Look at my food, 13,000 food. It's insane. I have a population of 59 adults, 6 students, and 6 children. Now, schooling is very, very, very important. You want to get a school as soon as possible without putting yourself into dire straits. Because basically the way it works is that normally when a child is born, they go like age 0 to 10. And once they become 10, they'll become a worker, a laborer. But if you have a school, instead of becoming a laborer or whatever, they will go to school for a couple of years to become educated. When they become educated, all jobs that they do, they're much more efficient at. It makes a big difference, and I strongly suggest getting a schoolhouse as soon as possible and always making sure that it is staffed with a teacher. So let's look here. We got a tavern. A tavern increases happiness of your people. It takes various things. You can put wheat, plum, pears, peach, whatever, and it will turn it into ale. One thing I don't like about the tavern is I farm a lot of wheat. I have one big field dedicated to wheat and like 3 farmers to get as much wheat as possible. I still cannot keep up with the tavern. I would need 2 wheat fields to keep up with this tavern. So I wish that you could just say, look, I want you to use wheat, peaches, and apples, right? So, and notice this too. Sometimes it uses other foods. I don't quite understand that. I'm assuming that it's, you know, again, working as a tavern where you can order food and whatnot as well. But I don't think those are required. Maybe that just makes people more happy when they visit the tavern. I honestly do not know. As you can see, we've got very big stockpiles here because we have lots and lots of resources. This means that, this means that they don't have the resources to create what they need. This is a tailor. Tailors make different clothes. You can have like hide coats, which is just made of leather, wool coats, which are warmer but require wool from sheep, and you can make a warm coat, which requires leather and wool in order to produce. You can see I'm getting constant messages saying, hey, you're full of, you have no more room for anything. So here's my fields. I keep seeing people say, oh, don't make fields and farmers early on because they take a long time to produce food. Maybe we're playing a different game. Maybe it's crop dependent, but most of the crops, you can see here, I've got corn over here. I've got peppers. Is this got nobody working here? Do I have any laborers? No, I have no spare laborers. But, well, don't even worry about that. But yeah, I have peppers here, potatoes. Here's my wheat field, and you can see they're going around right now, planting seeds. They plant seeds in early spring. And here's some pumpkins. But yeah, I mean, this is a pretty big field. I think this is 10 by 10 maybe. But these fields generate a lot of food, especially stuff like corn. It makes a ton of food very, very quickly. I mean, as you can see, I don't even know why I have the fish anymore. I guess other than to kind of diversify their diet. But it's crazy how much food that you can get from a field. And these really big fields, you'll want more than one person. Like I've got 3 people working on this crop, on this wheat field. And I've messed this up somehow. And I don't have any, well, now I have a spare laborer. So I'll go ahead and, I must have had a farmer die and there was no laborers to replace them. Here you can see I've got the event log. This way I can watch people be born and die and any other messages that come up that I need to see. Here we've got pastures. You can raise various types of animals. Sheep, cows, chickens, and I think that might be it. Maybe pigs. I think that's it. I don't think there's pigs. Let's see. Here's a quarry. Now, quarries are very interesting. As you can see, we're digging down into the earth because we respect it so very much. And you see I've got 53% remaining. So once this runs out of stone, there's no more stone to be had here. On top of that, now you have a giant gaping hole in the earth that you can't do anything about. Maybe over time, it might fill back in. I don't think so, though. I don't think it does that. I think so. You definitely want to plan a little bit better than I did for your quarry, because honestly, I just threw this town together, and I've kind of got hooked on it, and I've just kept going. here is my kind of my foresting operation. I have a forester's lodge. Again, the woodcutter is right here. Hunting cabin, they go out and hunt, obviously, deer, and you get both food and leather here. That's important to note. And you can always see what your previous season did and your current season to see how good they're doing on the food and the leather. Gatherer's hut is also, they gather a lot of food out of the gatherer's hut. Gatherer's hut, you do want it to be next to a forest. They gather mushrooms, onions, roots, and berries. And they tend to gather a lot. Now, granted, I have 4 people working here, but they tend to be very, very efficient. Let's see, there's my cattle farm. I actually just now got this going. And what's funny about this game is you can buy 1 cow or 1 sheep, and as long as you have a farmer, then they just keep on producing. I guess they produce asexually. It's like I've just got 1 sheep over here, and I'm hoping it reproduces with itself soon. So here we see I got our pumpkin patch, and everybody's starting to gather. I don't know what it is about these games, but farming in particular, I love to watch my people plant seeds and then watch them grow and then watch them harvest. I don't know what it is. Maybe I was maybe a farmer in a previous life or something like that. I know my great-grandfather was actually a farmer. So maybe that's what it is. But there's just something about that I love to watch them do. Now, the important thing here is you want to make sure there's enough farmers working in your fields. Because if you don't, once winter comes, it might kill off a lot of these crops before you can harvest them all. So that's something you can keep on. See, now watch. Watch how quickly the yield's going to start dropping, even when people aren't there. Yep, see, the yield's dropping because it's killing these plants. And now I've lost a lot of my yield because I didn't have enough farmers there to grab it all before it rained. And that was with 2 farmers, I think. Or no, that's just 1. But I think once they get into the bushel, I think they're fine. I think they can still get it. It's just it can't be just growing in the ground, or else it'll die. So you want to make sure you have enough people for your farms. But again, the farms is another great example of during off season when they're either not planting or reaping, then they will work as general laborers. I love that he thought to put that in there so that you're not locked in. It's like, well, this guy is a farmer and I have to micromanage. Okay, now he's a farmer. Okay, he's planted. All right, clear out the farmer jobs. Go do something else. Okay, it's time to harvest. I need to allocate people to being farming again. So I really like that. As far as pastures with sheep and cows, I don't know if there's any purpose to having more people work in a pasture. I don't know if that makes the animals reproduce faster or anything like that. That I'm not 100% clear on. I've got 2 people working this place with the sheep. It's not growing, it's not duplicating any faster, but who knows. We have our orchards here. You can grow all kinds of different stuff. You do have to get seeds, though, which goes into trading, and I'll cover that in a little bit. And I realize I'm trying to cover everything, maybe a bit too much. Oh, look, there actually is a trader here. Let me pause. Oh, wait, no, wait, is there? Yeah, there is a trader here. I can see his little boat. So this is the trading post. Trading is important to get access to a lot of things that you might not normally be able, that you normally won't have. For example, I'm only able to plant the peppers and the potatoes and the wheat because I traded with a trader for seeds. And you can see this guy has walnut seeds, and there's no money in this game. There's no ducats or gold or anything like that. So if I want walnut seeds and you only ever need 1 seed, which is actually really nice, then you tell him, look, I want your walnut seeds. It's 2,500. So I look through my stuff that I have set up in the trading post, and I'll say, okay, well, logs are worth 2 per, so I'll trade some of these, and iron is worth 5 a piece, and hide coats are worth a pretty decent amount. So you basically just figure out the numbers until you're happy with it. You can also place orders. So this guy is a seed vendor. So let's say, look, man, I don't need walnut seeds. I don't want walnut seeds. I want pecan seeds. That's what I want. So what you can do is say, then click this, and you can click as many as you want. And next time, he will try to bring that. Now, one thing you got to keep in mind is he does have a limited capacity to carry things. So if I just click every single one of these, he's not going to come back with them all, right? He's only going to have, some. So if you just really let's say you want pecan seeds and walnut seeds, but you just really want pecan seeds, you might just want to pick pecan just to make absolutely sure that that's what he has the next time he comes through. Now, again, that'll be the next time he comes through. And when he brings it, it'll be more expensive than they would be on their own. Now, I have to say, trading is one of the things that I'm not crazy about. The start of this town, I wanted to get sheep very, very quickly because I wanted to make warm clothes. For warm clothes, you need wool and you need leather. And again, with warm clothes, your people will work longer in the winter without having to go back to the house to get warmed up. So, the problem I have is that I bought a sheep and something happened. I don't know what happened, but the sheep somehow died without reproducing. So I lost my money on that sheep. This was actually my original sheep field when the sheep died or disappeared or whatever happened. I wanted to buy another sheep then. I didn't get a chance to buy another sheep for 50 game years. Just, I guess, by bad luck or whatever. I didn't get a vendor I didn't get a trader who had sheep with them or traded in sheep at all. So it's 50 years before I could buy any livestock at all. And I mean, I'm assuming that's all just random. I don't know, because you'll notice this guy, he only sells seeds. So if I want cattle, I'm out of luck. This guy doesn't do that. He just deals with seeds. So that really, really sucked that I was out of it. Just, you know, due to bad luck on my part. We'll go ahead and slow it down to 1 here. Again, I really love the winter effect. I like the snow. I don't know how much these people really like the snow, but and I have 1 person. They're citizens without jobs. Oh, that's probably, I have 1 person too many. I don't know. Probably this. There. That worked. You can also get orchards. Now, those take longer to produce food. Like, take 2 or 3 years. But you can grow apples and peaches and plums and all that. And you have a cemetery. People are happier with a cemetery because normally if people die, then like the family members will be really sad, and while they're unhappy, they're not as productive. So you want to get a graveyard, but again, it does fill up. So you might want to either make 1 gigantic graveyard or a bunch of smaller graves. And over time, the graves will just like deteriorate, and you can build on that land again. But my understanding is it takes a very long time to do so. So that's a lot of talking about this game. Oh, and other thing I want to cover on the trade very quickly, because those of you who are like me who really love this type of game, trade can be very important if you want it to be. One interesting thing, I talked about resource limits. The resource limits doesn't affect anything in the trading post. So for example, in here, let's say I want 1,000 corn in the trading post all the time. So let's say I've got 1,000 corn in the trading post, just like I've got set up. And let's say I've got a 1,000 food limit, just to make this simple. We'll ignore all other foods. What that means is I will get 1,000 corn and put it in the trading post, but I will also take another 1,000 and put it in the storage barn, because any food that's in the trading post does not count against your resource limits that you have set. Does that make sense? Because you don't want it to be, because once items are in the trading post, people can't just go and get them, right? So they could be starving to death, and you could have 1,000 corn sitting in the trading post. Though of course you can just drop how much you have in the trading post, and I think they take it back to storage or whatever. But that's really useful because I am at a point in the game where I'm producing a ton of food and iron and stone and all this, and I've only got so much room to store it. Yeah, I could make a bunch of storage areas everywhere, but what's the point? But if I put a lot of storage in my trading post, I can sell that to traders to get various things. Now, here's the downside to that. Trading is not really all that necessary or even lucrative outside of getting things that you absolutely cannot get on your own, like seeds for different types of foods or different kinds of orchards, or for getting that initial cow or that initial sheep or whatever. You cannot get those on your own. I'm like 99% sure of that. You have to trade for those. But outside of that, there's nothing really unique that they bring that I'm aware of. I've seen them bring well, that's chestnut, right? That's not different. So there's nothing really that unique that they bring, and you don't need to diversify your diet that much. on your own. I mean, look at these different foods I have. Corn, berries, fish, herbs. Well, I guess I don't know if you eat the herbs. Peaches, pepper, squash, pumpkin, venison, potatoes. So I've got a very mixed diet. So I wish that there were things that the trader brought that were things that maybe you couldn't get on your own. Like maybe there's special, I don't know, special foods or special items or whatever that they could bring, maybe entertainment items that you would need to trade for in order to get them. But as it stands now, other than like getting chickens and maybe a few more seeds that I want to get just for fun, I don't really have a reason to trade. So I'm kind of at a point where I'm not going to starve to death. I have 16,000 food. I have, again, about 60 people, and my production is through the roof. And I just don't have anything to use that production on. Does that make sense? Like in other games, it's like, okay, cool. I've gotten to the point where my production is so high. Now I can start really exporting and I can make a lot of money and start to become rich and use that money for various things. But here it's like, well, I've got tons of production. I don't know what to spend it on. Obviously, I can now expand the town. Now, the map is very large. Just we'll pull the map up here. You can see the map that I'm on. It's only a medium map, I think. But it's still big. Like, you can see we're only even looking that much of the map. There's still tons of areas to expand to. So the argument could be made is like, well, as you try to grow, you're going to eat into those resources. And that's true to an extent. But I have a ton of food. I feel like I could throw down 20 houses right now and no more food production, and I would be fine. I could be wrong, but it just feels that way. It feels like the game feels shallow in that once I've kind of gotten over that initial, oh god, we're going to starve phase, everything else is just kind of like, eh. Like it's kind of easy. You've crossed the only difficult gap in the game. Does that make sense? So yeah, I feel like there's not enough to shoot for. For example, you know, again, I made this tavern to make people happier, but they were already really happy. I made the graveyard to make them not so sad when their relatives die. But there's not more to go with. In other games like Tropico, I'll use Tropico because a lot of people probably watching this have a lot of experience with Tropico, and I've played Tropico a lot. One of the things about Tropico is, as your population grows, the needs and the desires of the people grow with it. So you can start with Tropico having a small church, but eventually it's like, okay, you need a cathedral now, or okay, now you had a small little clinic, now you need a big hospital to really service your people efficiently and to get them the kind of care that they're requiring. That doesn't really happen here. People aren't really going to be upset. You know, again, keeping in mind this is on medium difficulty, people aren't really getting upset. It's very, very easy to keep them healthy because the food's mixed up well. I've got an herbalist gathering herbs and a hospital, which every time I click on it, never actually has any patients in it. So I just feel like the population doesn't grow as far as the needs and the wants that they have to continually challenge you. Like the only challenge is the initial challenge of getting food and getting the absolute bare minimum production stuff. The timber cutting, the food gathering, the ore or the iron gathering, the tool making, things like that. I feel like those are the only initial challenges. And then after that, it's pretty much just like, all right, well, I guess what do I want to build now? A church? Sure, why not? I'll make a church. I don't feel like I need to make a church. I don't need to make, you know, a well. I don't need to make, well, I guess a well you need if there's a fire. But I feel like a lot of these things I don't even need anymore. It's just, I'm just expanding the town just to see how big of a population I can get, which is fine in itself. But again, I want, I guess, other challenges that come with it. And I'm not talking about random stuff like disasters. Disasters is kind of a, not really artificial, but a kind of a forced difficulty to deal with. Does that make sense? It's like, oh, a tornado destroyed half your town. Now you have to remake it. I want like a growing challenge, not just a sudden, oh, you have to deal with this crap. I'm fine with doing that as well, but again, I want to have to continually meet the needs of my people. And they still seem to be just as happy as when we had a town of 5 people and we're just barely making it. Does that make sense? Hopefully I'm actually articulating that correctly, even though that's a problem that I've got. So, but that said, I'm still enjoying this game a lot. I found myself last night I played this. I'm like, well, let me work on my town a little bit, and I ended up playing for like 8 hours straight, thinking, oh well, let me just do this and I'm going to be finished. Oh well, let me do this and I'll be finished, etc., etc. But yeah, I see another thing. I wish you could upgrade houses. You can upgrade them from a wooden house to a stone house, and it means that they use less firewood. But I mean, that's it. Like that's it. That's all the residential upgrades that you can do. And the blacksmith seems to be a missed opportunity because you can only make tools. That's the only thing that the blacksmith does, is make tools for jobs. That's it. So I would like to have seen some like luxury vendors. Maybe you can mine for gold and make jewelry. Maybe you have an artisan house, like a theater, not like a movie theater, but like where plays are staged and things like that. To kind of like, okay, we've gotten past the essentials. We've got food, we've got warmth, we've got clothing. We got roofs over everybody's heads. Now let's look at the entertainment. Let's look at increasing the quality of life. People aren't just living to live. Does that make sense? So I would have liked to have seen that in the game, and maybe, you know, he'll do that in future patches. But right now it does seem a little bit simplistic. But yet again, I'm telling you, I've really enjoyed this game. And just looking at my friends list right now, people who've played it, I see several people who have like 10, 12 hours into this game. And the top person, well, there's two people. One person has 40 hours in the game already, and my lady friend who bought this game at release, she has 82 hours put into this game, and it is $20. So, you know, keep that in mind. I feel like I've gotten my money out of it, and I feel like I will continue to get my money out of it. It feels like I will play this game more and try different builds. I will try to get a really huge population and what have you. Excuse me. So I feel like my money was well spent. This game was gifted to me, but I feel that person's money was well spent. But do keep in mind that it is a little bit shallow. For those of you out there who have played games like Tropico, Anno, Caesar 3, Pharaoh, things like that, I still think this is worth picking up at this price point. But again, just keep your expectations in check. One thing I do love about this game, though, is the variety of crops you can build. I like that variety is there, but the variety doesn't really seem to matter all that much. Again, does that make sense? Because your health is already high, you're getting different crops just because you want to. I could make all of these corn if I wanted, and it wouldn't really have any kind of real effect, I don't think, on people's overall happiness and health. Anyway, I think I've rambled on long enough. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this Let's Try of Banished. Again, keep in mind the links for the game are going to be in the description below the video. Hopefully you guys will, you know, decide if you like this, go pick it up. Again, I think it's worth it. I definitely think you should check it out. For those interested, I will probably do a Let's Play series of this where I just build a town and run with it and see how big I can get it. Maybe that will be coming to the channel soon enough. But yeah, anyway, thanks again for watching, and I shall see you next time.